WT lecture number 2. Before we start today's lecture, let us do a little recap what we learned last week. Right. So hope you all remember the titles we covered last week, starting from data networks and internet, where we talk about what is a network and what is a computer network or data network, what are the components, right? How we can create a network, and then we expand that topic into internet, how this internet made everything linked and connected everything in order to do all these things online, right? Then different networks we discuss, starting from LAN, MAN, and then WAN. We discuss about different features about those networks, right? And then we talk about protocols. We talk about there are different protocols to do different network connections, starting with HTTP and HTTPS. And then we discuss about the difference between HTTP and HTTPS, right? So HTTP, we used to send web requests using web browser. And then when it comes to HTTPS, we talked what is the difference, right? How the content, when we are sending content through HTTPS page, how we can encrypt it, right? How we can convert it to something that is not readable by anyone, not understandable by anyone. And then once it goes to the destination, how it converts to the clear text, right? Like the credit card details. And then we talk about web server and the browsers, and all of you confirm that Internet Explorer is your favorite browser, as I remember, right? We talk about different browsers, and then how these browsers can send requests to the web server. How can we get the content from the web server? So all the basic concept of web and the basic things that you need to know, we discussed them during last lecture. And also we started to talk about different languages. What are the high-level languages and scripting languages, and then markup languages. And I hope you all remember, when it comes to high-level languages, like we need to compile that and in order to machine to understand it. But when it comes to scripting language, we don't need any compiler. We can just run the code like PHP and Python. We don't have to compile it. And then when it comes to markup languages, we discuss about XML and HTML, which is actually not like we can't implement anything using these languages, but we talk like XML we use to store or transport data, where HTML we use to display data. So all those things we discussed during last week's lecture, and we did some coding as well with XML. You all were able to, almost all of you were able to run XML code, and then we did a simple part with HTML. So that is about the things that we learned last week. So I hope you all, even if anyone couldn't participate in the lecture, the recording is there on the course web. I hope you all able to go through the lecture. And since now it has been 1 week already, you are almost all of your first lab must be finished by now. Maybe some of you will be having labs tomorrow. And then I ask you to do the tutorial by yourself and bring it next week. Right? Okay, so I hope you have the code with you now. Let's go to this website. Wait, I'll send the link on chat. Okay, some of your web cameras are on, right? So please check whether your camera is on. Okay. Now go to this link. It's REPL.it. So you can either create your own account or you can use your Facebook credential to log into this one. If you log into it, you can select what is the language that you are going to work on, right? Here it says HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You have to select that one and then create wrapper. Okay, first time when you create your first wrapper, you can see index.html page here. There are some basic codes you can see, right? So what you can do is you can just remove all that code and you can copy and paste your tutorial code here, right? So this is my code for this biodata tutorial. Once you copy and paste it here, you can run it. So if you can see your right side, now here we need to have this image here, right? So in order to have that image, what you can do, you can add a folder here. So here I add a folder, add folder, name it as images. Then what I did was like I just download an image and then I drag it and drop it inside this images folder. Then it comes like this. Okay, now how many of you have the code for this tutorial? Okay, even if you don't have the code, just go to the REPL and try it, because we are going to do coding on REPL like hereafter. So like I said, we have so many different languages to study under IWT. So during the lecture, I want you to practice coding. So this is the tool that we are going to use hereafter, REPL. So what you can do all your work here, and then here on this right hand top, if you can see this link, once you complete this one, you can copy this one and you can send it to me through the chat. So once I click that link, I can go to your code and then I can check whether if there's an error, I can check that one. Right. Okay, I have one wrapper. Let's see. Any questions with creating this page and login? I think you must have tried REPL in your first semester, but if you are having problems, please let me know in the chat. I'll again explain it. Yes, just go to this link I sent you, https://repl.it. Once you go there, either you can create a new REPL account using your own credential and all, but what I did, I just use social media login, like you can use a Facebook login to log into that. It's easy. Yes, so Facebook or Google login, you can use it. So once you log into that, you can see you are assigned to your home page, which is here. Then you can add new wrapper, right? I hope you can see my screen. So here this left hand side on top, there's a blue button called new REPL. You just click this one and add new one. So once you add this new one, you are asking what language you are going to do. So here select this HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Okay, then create REPL. And so once you create this one, you will get something like this. You will have index page, script.js page, and style.css page. So we are not going to touch any of these pages. Now this is your index page. So what you should do is copy your tutorial code. Last week I asked you to try the tutorial. So copy that code and paste it here and then run it. So once you run it, you can see the output here, right? So if you can run your code without any error, copy this link on your right hand top and send it to me through your chat so that I can check it. That's okay, Hesha. It doesn't have to be same as the sample. Whatever you wrote, you can just copy it and then you can run it and see. Okay, how to upload image to REPL. So here, I hope you can see my screen, right? Okay. So here you can see add folder. Okay. So here you can see add folder in your left hand. You can add folder. Then it asks what's the name of that folder. Let's make it as images. Right. Then go to your download desktop. Okay. So here you have your image here. You can drag it and drop it here. Right? So once you drag and drop your image there, you can see your image here. So that image you can use inside your REPL code, right? So let me show you the correct code that I, which one? This Tibet. Okay. Now here in my images folder, I have a image called images.png. That is my image, right? So it's inside this images folder. And then in my code, I mention my path to my images inside images folder. The name of that image is images.png. So make sure, like check, like if your image is PNG image, you have to mention it as PNG. But if it's JPG, it has to mention here as JPG, right? So what is the type of image, you have to correctly mention it here. Okay. So wait, I have few projects to check. I think Shena sent the first one. Okay, very good. Yes, if you can see this one, Shenal's one, almost there. Only problem is with this yellow background and pink background, right? Like you have to see how you can merge these two. But other than that, everything is perfectly fine. Nice job. Good. Okay, let's see who else we have. Okay, this one. Both seem same, right? Four. Okay. Let's see the Aminos one. Am I getting the same one? Oh, my link is wrong. Yes. Good. Chamod, the very first chat I have stuck a link. Let me send it again. No, sorry. That was it. Anyone else? Yes, that's okay. If you, yes, Asim, if you are familiar with CSS. Check this. Okay, what is this? Some wrong is also coming. Anyone having troubles with Rubber? I think about 6 people made it. I mean, they have done the tutorial and also they able to run it on Wrapper. Let's see, I need another at least 10 people. Okay, so this is by Ishan, right? I got Ishan's code here. Ishan have a peak here. Okay, let's run this one and see. Let me share Ishan's screen. Okay. I hope you all can see Ishan's screen, right? Ishan's biodata. Nicely done with different colors. Very good. Right, so if you can see his code here, he used his own background color. That is okay. That is perfectly fine. And code and everything. Very good. Okay. Then we have another one. Let's see. So this link is wrong. It has to be something like yes. Check this one. Some of your links are wrong. So this one is from I can't see a name. So when you log into the Zoom student, can't we make your name appears with your ID numbers? So in that case, it's easy for me to refer, right? Okay, so this is, I don't know, like IT 2062501. Okay, your one. Okay, almost there. Nicely done. Only thing is image is missing, right? Okay, so yes, his one, he has the styling part also, which we actually didn't do that yet, but it's good, right? Okay, so image is not coming, it seems, right? Okay, your image is there, but it's not coming. Why is that? Okay. Download.png. What is a class B? Okay, let's remove this one. Okay. Good. Who else we have? We have Sadesh Samarasinghe. Let's check his one. Okay, so this is Sadesh's one. Let's run it. Right, very good, Sadesh. I think this one, it has almost everything correctly, right? The yellow background and then the slight thin yellow background and then pink background and all the contents. Good attempts, well done. And then this one. We check this one, right? That is Ishan's one. Okay. Do we have any new records? Anusha. Okay, I think Anusha, what is your sending is wrong. Then another two records. Okay, yes. This is also a good one. So like if you make this with like 100% here, you know, like you can easily get that thin margin thing, right? Then you're almost there. Okay. Percentage of this. Right. So I can't see your name, Gamage or someone, right? Okay, that is correct one. And this one. We can see another one and then we have to start our lesson today. Okay. Do we have another one? We have. We We have Navindu's one and then one year. We'll check those two and okay. So now student, with this REPL, what you can do is you can do your work on this. If you find something difficult and if you find some line is not working, what you can do is you can send this link to me. So I can go there and I can correct it and I can even add comment there, right? So I can it's like online tool, which we both can access at the same time, right? So you can use that forum we have on our course web to post the link, what you have done, because since we don't have much time to check each and everyone's code, so you can post it into that forum, right? I'll check it. Okay, Navindu's image is not coming. Index.png. Because there's no image as index.png. That's why it's not coming. Yes, it's also a good attempt. Okay, then this last one. Hey Shani. Hey Shani, so let's check it. Okay. Yes. Nice. Like she added colors inside the table. Right. So that's all we can check today, right? So REPL is the tool that we are going to use hereafter. So make sure that if you're not that familiar with that, make sure that you are familiar with it. Let's move into today's lecture. Okay. Okay, what is this? Right. So lecture number 2, web-based systems. Right, students, so today's lecture, content of today's lecture, what we are going to learn today is what is a distributed system and what is a standalone system and how they are differs from each one another and what is their architecture. We are going to learn about that. It's a huge subject. Distributed systems, distributed computing, it's a huge subject. Like if you selected software engineering as your major degree, so third year you have a complete module which covers everything about distributed system, right? So it's a huge area, but we are going to just understand what is this distributed system, what are the basic concept of that. Then there are some concepts that we didn't discuss last week, but this week we are going to discuss about those concepts when it comes to web. And then finally, the last topic, e-commerce system and forms, right? Which is where we are going to apply our HTML forms and all, like how we can create e-commerce system and what are the features of e-commerce system, what are the different categories of e-commerce system. We are going to learn with that part. Okay, so yes, don't worry, today also we'll be having a quiz before we are ending this lecture. The quiz is waiting, right? So we have some questions from previous lecture and some from this lecture. So yes, keep your phone ready as well. Okay. When you say the word distributed system, what does that mean? Like when you say something is distributed, so it means like it's several things, right? In several area or several places. Shared, scattered, yes, very good. Shared or scattered in several places, several areas, like it's distributed, something is distributed, right? So normally in our computer-based systems, we can mainly divide it into two different types, standalone system and distributed system, right? Okay, think about your laptop. Now you have your laptop and you are not connecting to the Wi-Fi. Now you have your laptop itself, right? And then you open a Microsoft Word document and you create a document, you write something, you create a report. Now this machine, your laptop itself, it's not connected to anything, right? You're using Microsoft Office inside that machine. So since it's not connected to anything, we call that kind of a system a standalone system. Right now, our laptop, if it's not connected to the Wi-Fi, right? Keep that in mind. If it's not connected to the Wi-Fi, in that case, it works as a standalone system, right? So in that standalone system, your Office package, your Microsoft Office, it's a standalone application. It works by itself. It doesn't need anyone's help to work, right? Office can work itself. So it's a standalone system. Now, how can the same Office thing become a distributed system? Can you think? The same thing. Once we connected it to the Wi-Fi, once we connected to the internet, what will happen? Like, let's say once we connected to the internet and we want, like you have like 4 group members in your group, you want 4 of you to access that particular Word document and do some changes, right? So in that case, you need internet, of course. Without that, you can't do that. And once you use the internet, and if you have this Word document in shared OneDrive, if you're working on that particular document with number of people, then it becomes a distributed system because multiple people access into that, right? You need internet to perform on that particular action, right? So that is the basic difference between a standalone system and distributed system. They are standalone system. You don't need any other system or equipment support. System itself you can work on. But when it comes to a distributed system, you need a connection, you need multiple machines or devices to do the work. Right. Okay. So this is a simple like solar system that we use in our houses, right? So you get the sun energy from the solar system, and we have like charge controllers inbuilt with that system. Then there's an inverter. So you can use that solar power inside your house to apply on some domestic appliances, right? So what is this? To complete this particular system inside our house, do we need some external support? We don't need. So this system, this solar system inside our house, it's a standalone system. Then when we consider about the solar panel, or like, yes, so this one. So there, what we do, we collect all the solar energy from these different houses, and we collected it to one particular place, and then we distribute it. Now that standalone system, one house itself, if it's not connected to any other places, it's a standalone system. Now here, once these all things connected and the plant is there, right, it becomes a distributed system. Nowadays, student, almost every system that we use through internet or day-to-day life, the things that we use, most of them are distributed system. All of these things are connected. But without some other equipment or other technology support, we can't perform operations. Okay. If we compare, if you see a comparison of these two systems, distributed system and standalone computer system. So like I said, the first feature is all components are executed within a single device. Like think about that Microsoft Word example, everything they are inside single device. But if it comes to a distributed system, if we are going to use that Word document in OneDrive, we need multiple devices to work on that. Standalone system, you don't need any network, not specifically internet, you don't need any network, right? Like it could be like, if you consider about the previous example about that solar system, you don't need any network. If you're operating it only inside your house, you don't need any network, right? But if you are going to make it a distributed system, you need to have connection. Network need to be there. Third one, now this part, this third feature, we are considering about a software like standalone computer system, software system. Normally, if it's a standalone system, we developed it using Java.NET. We call this Java.NET, C, C#, all these language, we call them tightly coupled languages, right? Distributed systems, normally, they are coupled or they are developed with loosely coupled technologies like the one that we are going to learn with this subject, and also these are like web technologies. Let me explain the difference between these two. Right? Now think about the mobile applications that you have on your phone. So there are several applications, even without internet, you can work on, right? So if you have Android or if you have iOS phone, so whatever the application that you have without internet, you can do some work and you can do the performance. All of these applications are developed using either Java or the Kotlin or Objective-C, right? All these languages are high-level languages. What it means by tightly coupled is, student, like if you want to do some changes on that particular application, if we developed it using this Java, .NET, C, C# kind of languages, if you want to do a change, you can't just change it, like just one component, you can't do any changes. That, you know, like if there's an update, if there's a new feature comes to that particular application, you need to get a new update of that particular application, right? You can't just take a part of that application and bind it. You can't do that, right? I think you have this experience, like in your mobile phones, if you want to get an update, you have to update the whole application, not partially. You can't do that. So that's what we call as tightly coupled, because all the component in that particular application, which we developed using Java, C, or C#, all those things are tightly coupled. It's very difficult to take one part out, or it's very difficult to edit one part without affecting to the other part, right? So normally, standalone systems are developed like that. They are tightly coupled, right? But when it comes to a distributed system, students, since it's connected to many machines, many people, many applications, whenever we need to do a small change, totally do the changes on that whole thing, it's not possible because it's distributed, it's huge. Like we have to do that change in all these multiple machines and applications, right? Loosely coupled means like when we develop something using PHP, JavaScript, CSS, or HTML, that means these components are like building blocks. They are not coupled like this, but they just like, you know, like we can just take that one particular building block, we can change that one, and again we can put that without changing the whole thing. That is what loosely coupled, right? So that is the difference between tightly coupled and loosely coupled. What you have to understand is distributed systems, we use mostly loosely coupled languages, because whenever we are supposed to do a change, we can't update the whole thing because it connected with so many machines and so many technologies. In that case, if we want to change one particular place or one particular thing, it's easy. We can just remove that one and we can plug that one. Whereas in a standalone system, if we develop something using high-level languages, we can't do that. It's not like building blocks. Once you remove that one building block, the whole system won't work, right? So whole thing you have to replace. So that is, those are the three main differences between standalone system and distributed system. Okay. So this what it's mentioned here is what I already explained. Right. So this is an example of a distributed system with local area network. All your personal computers are connected. Then there are workstation. You can connect it with file servers, right? Printers and other service, and then whole system is connected to the internet. Network gateway is there. Right. Now, when it comes to a distributed systems, like the system that we use, like think about Facebook, it's a distributed system. Gmail, Google, all these things, those are distributed system. Banking application, when we are using ATM machine or when we are using online transaction, that is also a distributed system. So they have different architectures in the sense like the base, how these components are arranged, right? So architecture in the house means before we build a house, we have to have this architectural drawing, how we are going to have it. So the same way, before having a distributed system created, we need to find out what is the architecture that we are going to use with this particular system. Okay. So normally, student, there's a architecture we call client-server architecture, right? That means from client, we are sending request to the server. Server send response to the client. That is client-server architecture. This now think about your course web page, right? So course web page, we have hosted it here in Slit, right? We have a server here. Then that is the server. That is you, we, myself, you, all these lecturers and everyone who's accessing to that course web, we are the client, right? So all the server-side file, we have it on the server. We are the client. We send request, HTTP or HTTPS. It sends us back the response. So our course web, it's a two-tier client-server architecture. Two-tier means there are only two parties. There's one client machine, and then there's only one server machine, right? Everything on course web, all the files, database, everything is there on the server machine. All of us are clients. So clients send the request, the server send us the response. Only two tiers are involved, right? So usually clients send the request asking for some service like I want to go to the IWT page. So we are sending the request. Then server send us the response, okay, to go to that page, please log in or enter your enrollment key. So once you enter that one, you can go to that IWT page. So, right? So that is how it works, client-server architecture. Right? So client-server architecture, you have to remember something very important. Always client is the one who's sending the request. So most of the time, like you can't send responses to the server. So whatever server send as a response, you can fill out something and you can send. But in client-server architecture, it always client send request, server send response. Right? So like your course web page, it's a two-tier architecture of client-server. Okay. So there can be multiple clients accessing the same server. Like I said, lecturers, students, we all are clients. Our Slit server is the server. And then there can be different devices. Laptops, mobile, desktops, right? Different devices can be there. Through internet, we access that server. So our first tier is this client tier. Second tier is this server tier. So that is how two tier happen. Right. Now, there can be some instances where this two tier is not enough. Right now, since let's say this, we'll take this example, Curtin University. So now Curtin University, they have their university and their faculties and everything in Australia as well. They have some centers in different countries as well, right? So if we consider about the number of clients are connecting with that internal system, then so like we have course web, they have one called Blackboard. So the people who are accessing that Blackboard, it's pretty much higher than the total number of Slit people who are accessing to a Slit server. So in that case, like this Blackboard application that they have, something pretty much similar to our course web, they need to have a huge memory, huge storage to have all these details. They need to have a very huge storage and memory capacity in order to handle all these clients if they go it with two tiers. So what they can do is, instead of having two tiers, they can divide it into three tiers. Right? Now they have the client tier. There's no change with that. Server tier, what they do is they divide it to two. So server, set of files or set of application they have in separate server, and set of applications, set of files they have in another server. Now, data tier means all the database related things like the database connection, all these files related with this Blackboard, they have it in separate server. Let's say that service they are on Australia, their main university. And then application tier is the intermediate one, right? Application tier is the one that client connect with. So client connect with the application tier level, and then we ask, okay, I want to see all the subject. Now, what is there under third tier? Then this application tier send request to the data tier and ask, okay, this person is authorized. He want to see the subjects and everything in third tier. Then data tier gives that to application tier. It sends the detail to application tier. Then application tier is the one who's sending the details to the presentation tier. That means to the client. So client cannot directly talk with data tier, but client can only talk with this application tier, intermediate tier. So we move from 2-tier architecture to 3-tier architecture mostly when there's a huge number of requests and when there's a huge set of data that we are supposed to handle. In that case, we need to have intermediate tier, right? Okay. So 3-tier architecture is used when there's a need for data persistence. And also, if we have this 3-tier clients, like we cannot access to data tier. That means the persistence means the security of that data. So normally students, whenever we are having a system in a web or as a distributed system, the data, we need to secure that data. If we have this kind of architecture in our system, right, client can only access to this application tier. So they cannot access to our data, right? So in this way, it secures the system and it reduces the traffic. And also you can have you need to have 2 machines or 2 servers, but with manageable memory and storage, right? So, but it's a bit costly because we need to have 2 separate machines, right? The cost is the disadvantage, but the advantage, if you think about the advantage, data persistence, speed is a bit low because now earlier everything happens in one particular machine and gives. Now one particular machine and then we have to connect it to another one and we have to get the response. So speed is obviously, speed goes down when the number of tiers goes up. Right. So 2-tier, 3-tier. Now, if you think about like Facebook, right? Application like Facebook, like we have like millions of clients, right? Now they are in Facebook, they have like N tiers, like intermediately, they can have many number of tiers. Like for, let's say for Asians, they have separate server. For Americans, they have separate server. So like that, they can, like this application tier also, they can have separate machines, right? So when we consider that whole system of Facebook, it has N tiers in between, right? When there is a need for further separation and distribution of the computer, you can add more tiers, right? That is why we say N tiers, like we can't exactly say the number, right? There can be 20 tier, 30 tier, right? So this application tier, you can divide it into another 10 tiers, and data tier also, like the Facebook example, like Facebook people can have separate server machine to have all the data of the Asians, separate one for Americans, separate one for Europeans. So like that, because they have huge set of data, huge number of clients to handle, they can have separate server machines. Right. Now, I hope it's clear why we need this kind of like client server architecture in number of tiers. Right? Okay. Do you have any questions so far? Yes, Heshan. It's like a bridge. Yes, the application tier is like the intermediate person. Like think about your house like like you have your father, your mother, and you. So the application tier is your mother. So everything every request, every money request, every late night request, everything is going through application layer. If application layer accept that, then probably the data layer also accept that, and you can get the permission, right? So this, but you are not directly connected with the data tier, right? You are scared, right? So you are not allowed, right? So what happens at home, the same thing happens with the distributed system, right? Kind of, it's like a bridge, or it's intermediate person. Only that person can talk with the data tier. Right? We are not allowed. Right? I hope it's clear. So any other questions? Anyone else have questions regarding this distributed systems and standalone system and client-server architecture? So far, no questions? All good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. Then let's move on to the web server. Now we talked about web server last week, right? I explained you why do we need web server. We have to purchase web server, and then there are different web servers. Remember? Okay. Let's see what are the web servers that are available. Send. What are the web servers that we talk about? We talked about mainly 3 web servers with different languages. Yes, Tamidu. Yes, NTA system can also used as a security measure. Yes. So what are the web servers we learned last week? If we are going to host a website using PHP, what kind of web server we need? Apache, yes, very good. With Java? If it's Java, Tomcat, yes, very good. And third one for .NET? Yes, perfect. Okay, so you remember. Very nice. Right, so we talk about that actually. So these web servers, like I said, we send the request using HTTP, right? It's a kind of software. There's a hardware part involved, right? So it's like a platform to server software to perform whatever the responsibilities it's assigned to. I think I explained this one. Okay. Now this is interesting, right? Okay. Now, when you type like www.google.com on your browser, how can your browser find that? Now everything is connected with internet, right? Now we type www.google.com. How we can find that google.com server? How it happens? What do you think? Okay, DNS. Very good, yes. Using IP address of the server, from that IP address, yes. So why we are not using that IP address and then using something else like google.com, facebook.com? We could have used that IP address directly. Can we? Yes, then yes, Shannon, we could, right? In that case, but we have to maintain an Excel sheet then, to have all the URL, all the IP address of the websites to remember. We can't remember them, of course. So then we have to maintain an Excel sheet, right? So we have to carry it everywhere where we go, right? So whenever we want to do web surfing, we need to have that Excel sheet, right, with all the IP addresses. Yes, actually the reason to have like this domain name system instead of having IP addresses is because it's not human friendly. We can't remember it, right? We can't remember all these IP address. So what we do to each of these IP address, we have separate names, user-friendly names, so that we can easily remember. So even though we type it as google.com, once we type it, like this one, Hassan said it correctly. Yes. Okay. I can't see your name. Yeah, but here someone say DNS. So DNS is domain names server. With this DNS, what it does is, like once we type this google.com, it converts, or it gives us the IP address of that particular server. Right? So actually what we do is we access to the IP address of that particular server. Otherwise, with that name doesn't have any connection or any meanings, right? Okay, good. Now here this is the example of IP address. Like here also, like internally when we are connected to the machine also, we use the IP address and we connect, right? Internally. Okay. Now, since we have to have some kind of a strategy to create this domain name, right? So we have this hierarchy for domain names, right? So starting from top level domain, that is .net, .com, .org. So that part we call it top level domain, right? That is the top level domain. Then domain is the name of that particular service or the particular web application or website. Now here, google.com, when we say google.com, domain name is Google, top level domain is .com, right? So wordpress.com, the domain name is WordPress. Wikipedia.org or wordpress.ps or like courseweb.lk, then courseweb is the domain name. Right? Then we have hosts, that means, or like second level domain, we call it, right? Subdomain, we call it subdomain. Like inside the main domain is Google, but inside Google you have a subdomain for Google Map, Google Mail, right? So Wikipedia, you have English, you have FR, you have AR. So different subcategories or subdomains, right? So when you are given this kind of domain name, maps.google.com, here as in this example, so your top level domain is Google, right? Your top level domain is .home, your domain name is Google, and your subdomain is maps. But even though it's a subdomain, it comes before the main domain, right? Maps.google. It's not google.maps, right? Maps.google, something inside the Google, right? Okay, let's see furthermore about this one. Okay. So like one of you mentioned as domain name system. So it's a network, right? That is DNS. It's what that gives us the IP address. Like who's providing this DNS is our service providers. So if you're using Mobitel, if you're using Dialog, so different service providers, they use this DNS to give us the correct IP address of that particular web address, right? Okay. Right. So let's see what are the steps of creating the IP address and directing us to the correct server, right? Okay, so starting from number one, let's say I want to go to this new website. Its name, the name of it is howstuffsworks.com. Right? It's a totally new web URL. I never visited that site. So this is the first time I'm visiting this particular site, right? So what I do, I type that on my browser. So our service provider, like let's say I connected with Dialog. So Dialog service provider, in this area, you have a DNS server. So first request go to that DNS server. So let's say this area, no one has searched for this one before, right? This domain name, howstuffworks.com, is not in my database. If someone in this particular area earlier visited to that site, then only our DNS server has that IP address, right? Otherwise, it doesn't know that this type of web address is there and the IP address of it exists. It doesn't know that, right? So now once this DNS server get that request, he checked, okay, I don't have it on my database. So what I can do, I can ask it from my mother DNS server, right? So what it does is check whether the mother or related DNS server, check whether you have IP address of this one. Okay, then third one, that's in my cache, it maps to this IP address and it gives this DNS server the IP address. It's in his cache because someone in that particular area earlier looked for that. Because of that, it has it there on his cache. So once this DNS server which we refer get that IP address, what it does is now it puts that IP address into its database. Now it has the IP address of this howstuffworks.com, right? Okay. Then it sends the IP address and then you can quickly connect with the howstuffworks.com because now you have the IP address, right? Okay, now let's say to happen all these things, at least it take like more than 1 minute, right? Because this is totally new address, then you have to find the IP address. It's not there with your DNS server. Then it checks with another DNS server, then it gets it back, and then only it can send it to you. So it takes some time. So let's say second day also, you are going to go to that howstuffworks.com. You will notice that it quickly comes. How it happens? What do you think? Yesterday it took like about 1 minute, but today, like within 15 seconds, you were directed to howstuffworks.com website. How is that possible? Yes, Sankalpa, because it's already saved in the cache of the DNS. Now, all these steps like 3, 4, we don't have that one, right? Now we have only 1, 2, and 5. Right? Now we have it on our DNS server saved on the cache. Now, next time or tomorrow or day after, any day when you are trying to go to that, it's there on the cache. Now you can easily go to that IP address. You can easily get that IP address, right? Okay. I hope it's clear now, right? Okay, that is how DNS works. Okay. Now, these are some, what we are going to learn hereafter is these are some yes, DNS cache, that is not something that we are handling. It comes with our service provider. So they can either keep it on their cache and that's up to them. Like probably it will be there forever. So once we visit a website, the IP address of that website will be there. Yes. Okay. Unified Resource Identifier. So you know what is URL, right? Okay. So actually, URL is like if you are given a URL of a website, that means we call it as a resource locator, right? The URL means actually if we consider about one particular file, where it actually located at, right? The location of that file, that is the URL. URI means, students, it's the identifier of that particular let's say website or web application or set of files. That is the identifier of that one. So URL and identifier, that is two different things, right? For this example, so here we are taking this example like URI is like your name, right? That is you. But URL, now how I can access to you? That is the URL, right? So your address or your email address. So URI is you, that particular resource, but URL means the access or the path to that particular resource. There's a difference between URI and URL. Let's see more about that. Okay. And then there's another one called URN. We call it as Unified Resource Name. Now everything is here in this example. Okay. Let us clearly try to identify different parts of this URL and which one is URI and which one is URN. Okay. Right now here we have a web address, http www.assignmenthelp.net, and then assignment help, and then what is a URL. So probably this what is a URL is the one that we are going to access. It could be a folder or it could be a file. That file is inside a folder named assignment_help. Right? So where do we have this one? The location, that is assignment help. That is the location where our resources resides at. That is the web server location. What is the protocol we use to access this one? It's HTTP. Okay. So you are right. That is, this particular document is, you can see, forget about the path. This particular document is what is a URL. So to identify this one, the URI become all of these things, right? So starting from here to end, that is the URI, identifier of that one. But if you want to access to that one, without having the file name, you can just access to that. That is URL. Right? So starting from http www.assignmenthelp.net. Once you go to assignment.help, so that is the link you are going to go. Right? Once you go there, you can access to what is URL. Right? So the URI is the identifier, that is what is URL file, the name and everything, that is URI. To access that one, URL is up to assignment help. Then URN, that is like a persistent location independent identifier, that is like actually like you don't have to have this protocol when it comes to URN, right? If you have this particular segment starting from www to the that file name, that we consider as URL. Right? So don't worry, we are going to talk we are going to take more examples and discuss about URI and URL in your lab sessions. Like this is just one example, right? So this can differ from one to another, right? So what you have to remember is URI is the identifier of that particular thing. URL, how you can access to that one. URN means like even without you considering about the location of that particular thing. Forget about the location of that particular thing. That particular thing itself, that is URL. Right? Okay, I hope it's clear. Okay. Okay, so URLs, you are very much familiar with URLs, right? So Unified Resource Locator URL can be seen as a web address like here, google.com. Like once you click on search, you can say this one, or W3 School or Wikipedia. So all these links, all these are Unified Resource Locator or URL. Okay. So this slide seems a little blurred. Okay. Right. So if you are given a web link like this, you should be able to identify the different component of that URL. Now here in this case, what is the protocol? HTTPS. Domain name, example. Second level domain, top level domain. Top level domain is UK, second level domain is Co. Right? Then you can see port number 443. Normally, students, when we are connecting with HTTP web, the default port is 80. Port 80 is the default port for HTTP request, right? But there are some instances in some websites and web application, they use their port 80 for something else. So in that case, they have to mention what is the port that they are going to use for us to connect with that particular website. Now, in this case, they say 443. So everyone who comes to connect with that web server, connect to it using port 443. So what you see it with colon here in your web address, that is the port number. Then inside this domain, you have a folder name blog. Inside there, you have another folder name article. So inside there, either search could be a folder or a file, right? So this is the path. So when you're given a set URI or URL, you should be able to identify these different parts of that, right? So that is the basic expectation of you, right? Once you learn about URI and URL, you should be able to identify those different parts. Okay. Right. I think now we can go to our quiz. Did I add questions after this one? No. As I remember, no. Okay. Okay. Shall we do the quiz since it has been almost 1 hour and we learn a lot about theory? You must be a bit sleepy and boring, right? Okay. Okay. Let's start our quiz. Yeah. Okay, you can start now. 3050177. Shanali is there. Tamil Limited. Okay. We have Chudiputta. Okay. We have 34 participants so far. $52. Okay, I think We have 57 participants. Shall we start now? Anyone having difficulties? Okay, let's wait another. Let's wait another minute. See, Patala people also here. So do we have two kokilas? Earlier also I saw a kokila. Okay, let's start now. Okay, we got 33 correct answers. Right. So remember we talked about XML naming conversion last week, like how you can name XML elements, right? So you can't have at the beginning, you can't have numerical value, you can't have hash, but you can only have underscore. Okay. Okay. Okay, now how I can pronounce this name? Maddie. Oh, what? I don't know. Let's say Maddie, right? Okay. Maddie. Okay. Second question. Okay, so this question, I just want you to think a little and give answer. Okay. Yes, now actually like World Wide Web is actually not a 3-tier, but actually I want you to, yes, it's normally like it's a client server architecture. You are sending request and you are getting responses. That is why what I expect. But since like now, since I have talked to you about this NT architecture and all, I think you, yes, a bit confused. So in that case, I think none of the above also. Yes, maybe that is why you select that, right? Okay. Right. Let's go to the next question. Okay, Devanta is leading now. Okay, let's see. That question. Identify the second level domain of this address. Okay. Domain level, domain name or domain name, like the first level domain of this one is org, right? Domain name or second level domain is IEEE. Right? Okay. Next question. Sankalp is leading. Identify the top level domain of the given link. Yes, it's obvious, right? WQ is the top level domain. ATZ is the second level domain. FTP is the core domain, right? Okay. It seems like we need to do more about this domain name and all, right? Maybe because only today we did that. Yes, it's bit yes, it's a bit confusing. It finds a bit difficult for you to remember that, right? So let me have some more details on the labs so that yes, it's better to have it. Okay, I couldn't see the name of the person who won. Okay. What is the incorrect statement about the standalone system? Yes, you don't need a web browser to run a standalone system. Okay, Sadesh was leading. Now Nim is leading. Okay. We have another 2 questions. This is very easy. It's too easy, right? So I want to see the faces of people who get wrong answers for this one actually. Yes. See, come on, student. We have like 6, 5, 7 altogether. Like how many? 6, 5, 18 students. We just discussed this one, right? Just after we started the lecture, what are the web servers? And then you mentioned that on the chat window, remember? Come on. Okay. Okay, Nim is leading. I hope it's a girl or boy. No idea. Nim. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Select the incorrect abbreviation. Read it properly. Yes, very good. Now IP is not for introduction to programming, right? It's Internet Protocol. Okay. Yes, it's file transfer protocol, not file transform protocol, right? Okay. Okay, so these 12 people, I don't know whether you thought that IP stands for introduction to programming. Okay. So www is World Wide Web. Otherwise, what is that? www. Okay. Let's see who. Okay, Maddie's third place, Hashi is second, and winner is Nim. Okay, congratulations. So let me know whether you are a girl or boy, right? Okay, so this that doesn't matter, but just like last week, was it Shana last week? I can't remember exactly what's the name. Like we had a couple of quizzes actually. Okay. Right, so that is that. Okay, since we did this quiz, I realized that you have some difficulties with this domain names and URI and URLs. So in that case, what's happening here? Nimtara. Cecile, you have such a nice, beautiful name, but why can't you enter that name? Okay, great. Right. Then back to the lecture. Where were we? Okay. Websites versus web applications. Right. Okay, I hope you all got that good news, right? Like now we are not going to group you. You can form your own groups, right? You can do that. But I have little doubt whether like you can group with anyone, whether you can group with anyone from other groups, or you have to find people from the same group. I think you can group with anyone from your batch, right? That 4 members can be any person, whoever in year 1, semester 2, right? So most of you were asking about that. Now you can do it. So did you get that document to fill it? Spreadsheet? Did you get that link to a spreadsheet where you can pick your, where you're supposed to enter your IT numbers and create the groups? Did you get that one? Did you? What happened to these students? No reply. Oh, I can't see the chat. Okay, yes, there's a form for the leader to fill, I think. Okay. Do you have a deadline for that one? Because like it is not only for the IWT student, it's for these all of these subjects, right? That grouping thing happens. So did you fill that form? Or do you have a deadline for that? That is done by first year coordinators. Actually, we don't have any hold on that one. So once you fill that one, then only we get the list with your names and all. Okay, tomorrow 3 p.m. is the deadline. So if any one of you couldn't fill that one, please make sure you fill that one. So once you fill that one, we'll get the list of your names and your groups. So then once we get that one, you can have the title and let's discuss about the projects that you are supposed to do, right? Okay. Now, do you know the difference between static website and dynamic website? Give me an example for a static website, you know, and a dynamic website. What is static and what is dynamic? Any idea? Static and dynamic. The word static means kind of like stale, but word dynamic means changing, dynamic. Now, static websites and dynamic web. Two different things. Website and web application, two different things. Okay? Now you need to identify what are the differences between each of these points. So let's start with websites. Now, websites means a website. If we say a website, it is like a bunch of pages, right? A bunch of pages where you can see some kind of information, right? In a website, there cannot have anything that you can interact with, right? There cannot be anything that you are interacting with, right? If there's something that you are interacting, if you are filling a form, or if you are playing a video, if you are listening to something, then that website is no longer a website, it becomes a web application, right? So website means client or user, you can't do anything other than just look and read the information which is there, just like Wikipedia. So the Wikipedia websites, you can't do any actions or anything on Wikipedia page, right? It just gives you some information. So web pages, set of web pages create to give us some set of information or details. We call them websites. Then there are some web, mostly nowadays, we have some websites where you can do different actions on that website. You can fill forms and you can send that, and then you can download things from that to your machine, right? Client can perform things on that web pages. So those kind of websites, those kind of webs, we call them web application. Website and web application. Clear? Two different things. Then there's a thing called static website and there's a dynamic website. Difference between static website and dynamic website is static websites, they does not have a database, right? All the content of a static website is typed on that pages. Where in dynamic website, you have a database. So the content of that web page comes from that database. It's not there inside that file, but it's stored in the database. We read that data from the database and we fetch that data into our page and we showcase it to you. That is dynamic. Now, static website can be website or web application. Dynamic webs also can be just a website or web application, right? So this difference, these four components, you need to identify clearly, right? Now, Wikipedia actually, the content of Wikipedia, they have it in a database. So Wikipedia is a dynamic web, but you can't perform any action on Wikipedia pages. In that case, it's a web site. It's not a web application, right? Facebook, other side. Facebook has a database. So Facebook also a dynamic web, and you can do several things. As a user, you can do several things on Facebook. So Facebook is not a website, but web application. Our course web, also a web application, dynamic web application, right? I hope it's clear. Now, how this static web page works and how this dynamic websites work, let's discuss further about this, because it's very important you to understand how this, what is the difference between static and dynamic, right? Now, let's see. I am going to create a website to showcase all the districts in Sri Lanka, and each district I am going to have a separate page, and each of those pages I am going to display set of images in that particular district and some kind of description. Now, since we have 25 districts, if I don't gonna have a database, I need to have 25 pages, right? Anuradhapura.html, Colombo.html, Kandy.html, Kurunegala.html. Likewise, I need to have 25 separate pages, right? Then, like we learned about HTML last week, we are having the title, description of that particular district, and then some important places, images of important places in that particular place. We can add it to that particular page, right? So 24 pages, 25 pages, we add that, right? Now we host our website. Now it's a website because there's no database in it. After some time, now the background color of my website is blue. After some times, I feel like it's better to have a white background instead of having blue. And then white background, I'm going to go with the blue font. So how many pages I have to change? All that 25 pages I have to change, right? Then after sometimes I feel like I should have like 2 columns, right? I should have images this side, description this side. Then how many pages I have to change? Again, all that 25 pages I have to change, right? So think about it like we are hosting our website in a server, and I'm going to do a very simple change. It's just one line of code. But to do that, I have to download all the 25 pages, and one by one, I have to edit it and then again upload. So there can be error happens. I may forget to close tags, right? So maintaining a static web is very difficult, right? So considering all the difficulties I face, I am going to move from static website to dynamic web. So what I am going to do, I am going to create a database table. I name it as district. Now inside my table, I have all the details. Now I have, for each district, I have different ID. Now district name, ID, description, image. Likewise, I have a table, right? Now Anuradhapura, ID number 1. Kagala or Kandy, number 2. Kurunagala, number 3. Likewise, I have all the details entered in that table. Then I need to have only one file, right? If I am creating a dynamic website, I need only one file, right? So how I am going to display different district details to that page is the same way that you can view each one of your profiles in Facebook, right? So each one of you are given a unique IDs. With that unique ID, once you logged in, only your details taken from the database and fetched into your profile. So same way, student, like I have one page, I name it as district.php, let's say. Whenever I want to view Kandy, I say district.php ID equals 2 on the URL. I pass the ID. So what this server does is from the browser, it reads the ID and then it takes the record only with ID 2. So if I want to see Kandy details, ID 2 details comes from the database and fetch into my field, right? So that is very, very easy to handle, very straightforward. And if you want to do some changes on the content, you are not going to touch the code, but you are going to touch the database. For that, we have a backend database administrator where you can edit the database records. It won't affect your file, right? So that is how the dynamic and static websites work, right? There are some more things for you to learn, but basically what you need to do is the main differences between static website and dynamic website and web application, right? I hope it's clear. Okay, we have most easiest and common type. Yes. Okay. Now, if you see something like this in a web, this is a web application because it's taking your user input, right? So if something is taking your user input, it's no longer a website, it's a web application. But you can't just say it's a static or dynamic just by looking at it, right? So just by looking at the look and feel, you can decide whether it's a website or web application. But to decide whether it's a static one or dynamic one, you have to just see whether the IDs are passing or the data, how many pages are there, like that. You have to analyze it to understand whether it's a static or dynamic one. Okay. Right. Okay, so normally when we consider about website or web application, we have a client-side development and we have a server-side development. So that is basically like this, student, right? If you developed a web page using PHP or Java applets, let's say, once it's come to the client machine, it converts into HTML, right? So if you see like Facebook page, if you see the source code, you can't see any PHP codes, but you can only see HTML and JavaScript, right? So this HTML and JavaScript, we call them client-side language, right? Even if we create a website using HTML and JavaScript, once someone load that web page to his or her machine, so exactly what we write there goes to that, right? It's a client side, right? It's not converting to anything. It's basically HTML. But if we create a website using PHP, Java, or other languages, it converted to HTML and goes to the client browser, right? I hope it's clear. So server-side language and client-side language. So in browser, everything is either HTML or JavaScript. There's nothing on the browser, right? On our browser, no matter what advanced website or web application we are accessing to, once you see the source code of that particular page that loads onto your browser, it's only HTML and JavaScript, right? So from that, we cannot say what is the language that people use to develop that particular website. Because no matter what language they developed it, when it comes to our browser, they convert it to HTML and push it, right? Okay, so the security-wise, we need to have that, right? Otherwise, if we can see all the PHP pages of Facebook, we also can start something with the different name tomorrow itself, right? Very easy if we can get all the coding and people can hack it, right? So yes, I think it's clear why we can't have this high-level language as it is onto our browser, right? Okay. Third topic, and this is something that I think you are very much familiar with, right? E-commerce systems. How many, any one of you didn't purchase anything online so far? I didn't buy anything online. I don't know what is Alibaba or eBay or I don't know what is online shopping. Anyone? Right. So nowadays, I think students now earlier means like maybe like 5 years back, we don't have these things with social media. But nowadays, I think I realize and I experience there's no websites or anything that you can purchase things, but everything in like everything and anything, you can just put a WhatsApp message and then you can have cash on delivery option, or else you can do the fund transfer, right? So everything like it's going other way around, right? Why we created this e-commerce system because to make a secure, more reliable online transactions, right? So that's the purpose of creating this e-commerce system, online purchase, and we have this secure payment system and everything. But instead of doing that, what we have is cash on delivery and all. I think that happens because of this COVID situation, right? Mostly it happens because of this COVID situation, because there are so many online traders, right? Okay. Right. So it seems like almost all of you have purchased something online, right? E-commerce. Okay. So it's a very large domain, right? Internet marketing, we have fund transfer, online transaction. So when it comes to e-commerce, it has so many sub-component or sub-levels, right? But what we are going to talk more in this e-commerce section is the forms. Now, when we are dealing with the e-commerce system, most of the time they are taking our details to a form. How we can create this form, how this form behaves. Basically, that's what we are going to learn. But before that, you need to understand what are the basic things that we have in this e-commerce system. Like if we categorize this e-commerce system, there can be e-commerce system, like normally the e-commerce systems are, normally it's a business to consumer, B2C. Traditional operation is that. But there are some instances where we use e-commerce system to business, right? So some people can buy from eBay and they can resell, business to business. And also like consumer to consumer. So someone who's not doing it like as a business, but from consumer to consumer. Like sometimes someone purchased something, but he never used it, and so that person want to sell it back. Like Ikman.lk, you have like consumer to consumer products, right? So e-commerce system, basically you can divide into three main categories: business to business, business to consumer, and consumer to consumer, right? Okay. Apart from these advantages we have with e-commerce, can you think about some new advantages that you experienced with e-commerce? Now here we have no queues, reduced price mostly, right? Global transaction. You can do it anytime, right? Day, night, anytime. And a huge collection. You can easily select. Apart from this, can you think about another advantage? We can do it in less time, right? We can do it in less time. Transportation cost, yes, we can save transportation cost. So student, like when you ask something like question like this in your exam, maybe like I may not ask what is there exactly on the slides, right? I want you to do little like, little analyzing part, like once you are giving some kind of a scenario, how you can understand that, right? Without remembering everything, how you can analyze it, and how I want to see whether you can come up with your own ideas. Like we can compare goods, we can save transportation costs, and the time is we can do that shopping in very less time, right? Yes, and we can avoid traffic. That means no stress, right? There are so many advantages of e-commerce. So it doesn't necessarily need to be what is there on the slides. If you were asking question like what are the advantages of e-commerce, if you can, think and write what are the actual advantages of e-commerce, that is what counts, right? Disadvantage, okay, without going to that slides, what are the disadvantages of e-commerce? What do you think? Do we have disadvantages? Yes, you can't inspect, right? You have to believe them, right? Once the photo or video, whatever available there, you have to believe that. What else? Yes. Not sometimes, right? So normally always the delivery is very delayed, right? Yes. Yes. That is a very good point. Internet expenses. Most of the time when we are doing online shopping, we forget to calculate the amount that we spend on the internet connection, right? Sometimes to purchase one particular thing, it takes like 1 hour internet surfing, right? But we are not adding that one, right? So that price is there. Returning process is hard. Yes, it's impossible actually. Addicting, yes. Especially if you're using someone else's credit card, yes. Addicting can happen, yes. Okay, yes. So the refunding issues, yes. Delivery time is too long. Quality, yes. You can never be sure about the quality. Yes. Can be scammed, or sometimes you ordered something like salmon pink, but it comes with maroon, right? So you can't do anything for that, right? Okay. What else? Okay, let's see what we have. Cannot examine, lack of shopping experience, need internet action can be adapted, right? Okay. So apart from that, all the other points that you mentioned there are correct. Items. I think, Sadish, you are mentioning the disadvantages to the, not to the customer, but to the shop owners, right? That we discuss later. Okay, now that is a, yes, that is a good thing that you mention here. Sometimes when, like now this thing happens last year paper actually. Sometimes we are asking you a question, what are the advantages of e-commerce in terms of customers or in terms of business? Once we ask the advantages of e-commerce in terms of business, you can't say lack of shopping experience, right? That is not, disadvantages comes under business, but it comes under customers, right? You have to very clearly understand the questions, right? That happens because here, since we have number of disadvantages and advantages in several categories, you may get it mixed, right? To the customer, disadvantages and advantages are different. To the business, it's different, right? Now, when it comes to business, if you're having online store, like after the capital cost, it's very easy. Like you don't have to have a huge showrooms, but you just have to have some place to store things, right? So you don't have to maintain that place, right? And then you can have global customers, increase market share, right? So those are the advantages of e-commerce to the business. Other than this, what do you think? Advantages from the business perspective. Can you think about something else? Yes, don't need fancy stores, right? Only the storage is enough. So you don't have to maintain a showroom. You don't need more staff, right? Yes, very good. No labor cost. Okay. Disadvantages from the business side. What are the disadvantages? Think. Disadvantages of e-commerce from the business side. Internet expenses, websites, yes, you need to have internet connection, right? Servers, if a server goes down, everything is over. Business is closed, right? Okay. Delivery cost, yes, you have to handle delivery cost. Supply chain managing can be difficult. Power expenses, yes. You need to have very good storage, right? And like you have to always rely on someone else, right? The delivery person, like you have to rely on, no matter how good your service is, no matter how good your products are, if you find a delivery service which is not good enough, then the customers will disappoint on you, right? Packaging cost, you have to package it well, right? Let's say you are online, you are doing plates or flour, then you have to have a very good packaging. Always you need to update. If you're doing it online, there are a huge number of competitors. You have to update your system and everything, right? Very good. Okay. I think other than things that we have here, we covered everything. Okay, so I think you are familiar with something like this, right? Okay. Right. Now, let's go to the REPL, right? Create a new one, create a new code, new page, name it as my first web form. Okay. Let's try to create this web form on REPL. And let's try the basics. Okay. Right. So normally, when we have a form in HTML, we have actually a form tag included in that form. Right? So it's HTML tag form. It has two methods. Either you can use get or you can use post. Right? Get means, let's say you have, let's start with very simple form, right? Let's say you have two input values, number 1, number 2. Two input values you are taking from the customer, and then you have submit button. So once you submit, click on that submit button. If you use method get, right? If you use the method get, whatever the values that customer entered as num1 and num2, let's say first he entered 5, second he entered 7. That 5 and 7 values will be displayed on the URL. Right? If you use get method on your form, whatever the value your customer entered on your form will get displayed on the URL with get. But if you use post, there's another method called post. If you use that, whatever your customer entered, it's not going to display on the URL, but it passed to the next page without displaying on the URL. So the difference between get and post, get, you can see that on URL, but post, you can't see the customer entered value on the URL. Right? Okay. Action means once we fill that form and click that submit button, where should we redirect into? Right? Now think about the Facebook login page. So Facebook login page, form method is post because you can't see your username and password on the URL once you enter it, right? So form method is post. Action is home.php. Oh, yes, once you log in correctly, you are directing to the Facebook home page. Right? So the action means once you submit the button, if your entered data is correct and validate, where you should be redirect to. Right? That is the action page. So if you have a form in your project, you need to have one form, one file, that is the form where the form has, and then another file where you should redirect to once you submit that form, where you should go. Okay. Let us do a simple. Okay, so yes. So get and post, like I said. So like this. So if you have your method as get and your action file is controller.php, once you click on submit button, you can see this on your URL. Whatever you enter, you can see it on the URL. Right. Shall we try this one? You can either try it on Wrapper or else I'll just show it with Notepad. Okay. Okay, now here, you also can do this with me. We have this HTML page called index. Now there I am going to have this form, right? Form, method, hit action. Let's say result dot and I have to close my form. Right. Now with this form, I am going to have two input fields, right? Input type. If it's just a text input, we say type is text. Let's say name equal num1. Let me copy this one. Let's run this one and see. Where did I say this one? Oh, okay, if they say you can have 5 members, then of course you can group it with 5 members. So normally earlier it's with 4 members. Now maybe because the number is a bit high, maybe they're having it as 5 members. That's okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you? I have number 1, number 2, and then 2. No more, yes?
No, ma'am. We can't see.
You can't see. Okay, wait. Okay, now we can see, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I have these 2 input fields inside my form, number 1 and number 2. Then I am asking user to enter numbers here, 12, let's say 10. Then to submit this form, I need to have a button here, right? Now I'm going to add that button. For that, we use input type.
Excuse me, ma'am, we can't see the notepad.
Yes, wait, I'll show it. Okay. Now this is my code. You can see, right? Okay. So now we have a form. Method of that form is get. Action is result.html. That means once you submit this form, you should go to this page called result.html. So we have number 1, that is our input field. Type of it is a text. That means text value. User can enter text value. And I need to have a name for this input field because I have to read these values in this results.html. I need to read what are the values that user entered, right? In order to do that, I have name for that. So first one name num1, second one num2. Then I have a submit button. So there are 2 ways we can have submit button. We can have input type equals submit, value submit, or we can have it as a button, right? Right now, let's use this one. Okay. Shall we all try this one? Can you all take a notepad and type this one. So that during the lecture, you know how to write a form and how to create input fields, and probably it will work correctly. Then with the concept and all, you have hand-on experience. Yes, Namita, as far as I know, it's okay to groups from different subgroups. Yes, Shanal, even though the head and body is not there, it works, right? So you can add body. But basically, without head and body tags, with these HTML tags, it identifies these are inside the body, right? Good that you noted it. Shall we try this one? Okay. Type it and copy it and paste it on the chat. Okay. If they specifically mention that the grouping need to be with the same group students, then can't help on that. But there can be instances like when 5 people are done, there can be only 2 students remaining in one group, right? Very good. There's no way that you can copy what I write here, right? Okay, you have to write it, right? Okay. we have one coding. Very good. Yes, we have another one. Okay, now these two your names, I can't see the only ID numbers. Can you run your code and see? You will get an error page. And can you explain to me why you getting this error page? So I also getting the same. So I enter 2 numbers, 52 and 60. Then I submit my form. Then it goes to something called results.html1 with whatever the value I entered. I can see them here. But it says the file couldn't be accessed. Okay, Damidu. Okay. So yes, if you don't have a group, like you have to communicate with other team members and you have to find a group. Okay, we have a referral code. Yes, very good. Because there's no results.html page, right? We don't have a page called results.html on our desktop. That is why. Very good. So let's create a new page. Very good. So let's create results HTML page. So it has to be there on the desktop, right? Let's have our project inside a folder. Okay. Can you change that action into www.google.com and check whether it's working? Is it working? Is it redirecting to that? No? What does it say? It works, right? Now, see. Wait, I'll share my screen. This is my index.html page, right? So once I click submit, I mention google.com as my action, right? Then it goes to google.com with the values that I entered here. Let me show you the code. But you have to mention it like this, like HTTP exact location. You have to mention it here. Right. Okay. To go to the next page and read in the content from this page to that page, we are going to learn that one with along with PHP. Actually, without PHP, we can't do that. We can't read this content. Now, what you need to know is that with form, you can have this use input. Okay, shall we change this to post and see what will happen? Okay, now I change the action to post. Okay. Now it goes to google.com, but can you see any parameters passing there? No. Right? Since it's post, none of the values that we entered here is going to pass like this. So that is the difference between get and post. So what are the instances we need post and what are the instances we should use get? What do you think? Why we should use post? Why we should use get? Any idea? Let's say if it's a password, is it good to have it with get? Yes, very good. Post is used when sensitive information is entered, or else like if we have like, let's say like paragraph, let's say we have like 300 words. If you use get with that, you can't handle it, right? If you are passing huge data, if you're collecting huge data to your form, you should use post, right? If it's sensitive, you have to use post. If it's huge, you have to use post. What else? So here, I think in our slide also we have mentioned that. It's not coming. Okay. Now, like it says here, use post method to send sensitive or personal information. The post method does not display the submit form data in the page address field. That means on the URL, you can't see any data. Post has no size limitation. You can use to send large amount of data, and you cannot bookmark the pages with post, right? So if it's with get, you have this set of values. With that, you can bookmark that page. But with post, you can't bookmark with the values, right? There are some places we bookmark pages with the values we entered, right? So with post, you can't do that. Okay, I think this we discussed. Okay, submit button, like whenever we have to submit a form, we need to have a submit button. So input type would be submit value, whatever value you can enter. If you enter submit, you can see the button name is submit. If you say login, button name is login. If you say click on me as value, the button value will be click on me. Okay, so on that file, we consider only about the text field. So there can be radios also. Radio buttons like this. Input type radio, name, gender, right? And if you want to have okay, now here you have to remember something. If it's a radio button, right? Radio buttons, you can select only one option. So if it's like, let's say gender, you can have only one value for that, right? Either it could be male or female. So in that case, name of these two input types has to be same. It has to be gender. Value has to be different. So if someone select male as the gender, he's a male. If someone select female as gender, she's a female. Like that, right? Okay. Right. Now, this form. Now I discuss with you how you can have button, how you can have input values, but we didn't discuss about drop downs, right? There are drop downs and radio buttons. We talk about the check buttons. Check buttons, you can select multiple values, right? So all those things comes under form, right? Right. So, however, we are going to create this form next week with me in the class, but I want you to practice on it, right? I want you to practice on all these input field: text, date, option button, radio button, drop down, and the file. How you can upload a file. I want you to practice and come. However, I'm going to do that. But it's better if you practice and come, then I can tell you one by one, then we go. we both can do it simultaneously, right? Okay. Now, students, when we let people to enter values, I think you also experience this. Some forms, you can see this red color asterisk, right? Without entering your email address, you can't register on that particular site. But you can ignore the mobile number. It's not a mandatory field, right? So some fields in form, they are mandatory, but some fields they are not. So how can we make some fields mandatory in forms? So this is how we do that. Let's say in your form, everyone should enter their email address. It's a must. In that case, what you can do, you will have to have this tag, required, right? Keyword, HTML keyword, required with this input type, right? If you limiting the input characters, now these ones, actually these limitation, whenever we are creating a form, we have to do that, right? For that, let's say that if we ask someone to enter their name, like maximum length of name could be like 200, right? That's all. So we have to give that limit. More than 200, no one can type. If not, what will happen if you are just giving an input field someone to enter, they can just press keys like whatever the times they want, right? They can just send huge set of data with our input field, right? To avoid that, we can set max length and also numerical value only, right? For let's say like we are having like our form is like online calculator. We ask users to enter 2 numerical values and then we are going to do some calculation with that. So if we ask them to enter now numerical values, there's no way that we can make sure they will only enter numerical values, right? You can never trust your client. You can never trust your user. So you have to make sure that they are only allowed to enter numerical values, right? So that also you can make it possible, numerics only. And then size, max length. So these are the additional features that we use with form validation with HTML, right? So these are the basic HTML validation, and we are going to learn how we can do the validation with JavaScript and PHP as well. Right. Now this form seems a bit cluttered. I'll upload the form which I want you to do it by yourself, right? Which I'm going to discuss next week. I'll upload it to the course web, not this one. So you can try it. You can take the help from W3 School. Once you go to W3 School HTML forms, all the details about forms, how you can do that, everything is there. You can just follow it, right? So best thing is you practice it and have it on Drupal, right? So next day when you come, you can send me the link. So one by one, I can check that one. Right. Any questions? Grouping thing. Yes, you can't say that I don't have a group. So however, you can communicate with others and try to form a group, right? In worst case, if someone couldn't find group by tomorrow 3 p.m., then for those students, maybe these first year coordinators will allocate you to groups. Right. How was the lab sessions? Hope they went well. You have any issues with labs? Any difficulties? I hope you learned about personas and how you can draw them. And then how, before developing a website, how you can draw a wireframes, right? That's what we discussed in first lab. Yes, I hope it went well. Right, so next week, student, actually we will be mostly doing the coding, right? Yes, so practice form elements, how we can arrange them, and I'll be giving little exercises for you to practice the coding on HTML. You can use whatever the editor you like I said earlier. So then you can use that editor and you can copy it and paste it here and you can send it. Okay, any other questions regarding the lecture or regarding any other concerns that you have with IWT, you can ask. So actually today's tutorial, students, it's yes, you can select members from another lab groups, but you can't select members from another groups. Like if you are like this group is our group number 1, you can find anyone from group 1. Doesn't matter. Lab group doesn't matter. So